Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Real Football Talk. As always, I have Cam with me. Cam, how are you?
Yeah, good man. Sorry,
Ad-
just drink water.
as you can see, Adilbai is missing. I don't know why. Nah, I wonder why. Hey, I wonder. He's not even picking up my phone calls.
I couldn't stop laughing.
Huh? I
I
never.
was watching I was watching the game. I was watching the game. I couldn't
this
stop
is
laughing.
this is his fault for missing it. This is on him. This is his fault for.
Oh,
So you know what? We got all the ammos, everything that we need.
yeah,
His
yeah.
fault for missing it. He can't defend himself. When you watch it, remember this. Remember this. Next time you don't miss these matches, okay?
Right, I know we're gonna talk about it, but I just can't stop laughing. Man, Garnacho was so happy.
He was. I mean, he was celebrating for like I don't know, about 15 minutes. I think.
Yeah, it must have been. That's where all the 102 minutes of the game went to, isn't
Yeah.
it?
I mean, rice, baby. But yeah, where else to start? Where else to start than to at North London, at the Emirates Stadium, where I mean, what a game. Didn't start off that great. It seemed like a very tamed match. Arsenal kind of dominating the position, and Man United kind of trying to hit on the counter, and then
Yeah.
then yeah, just game came alive from a Havertz misplaced pass. Rashford gets the ball, and then obviously does what he does in the counter really every single time against Arsenal. What's your thought on the game, Cam?
I think Ramsdale could have done better. I think his positioning was poor. But let's not get too critical on him. The shot was really good.
Mm.
Rashford loves playing against Arsenal, so
Who
you can't
doesn't?
stop him.
Which player doesn't? I think every player just loves playing against Arsenal.
No, I don't know. I felt like the game, the way it was going, it was heading for a draw
Yeah.
at most points. It didn't seem that exciting. I think overall, yeah, I thought if the game ended in a draw, I think both sets of fans would kind of be relieved. I don't think any team felt
Nah, I
like
wouldn't.
I don't know. I don't think you looked at that. I don't know. Maybe as an Arsenal fan, but as a
Mate.
neutral,
Yeah.
looking at that game, watching that game, I just thought neither team have been spectacular. I
Yeah.
thought was great at moments, but I thought he was so wasteful at times. Almost every time he got into the box, besides when he scored, I think he kind of delayed the pass or a shot that bit too much, and it kind of let you guys down. Obviously Saka missed a sitter. Garnacho goes and scores, gets ruled out, and then you got Rice, who goes and gets, let's say, the winner,
Yeah.
and then Jesus, you
Jesus
know,
sits him down.
love. By the way, I think if there's any Arsenal player I absolutely love is Jesus, but he finished that game clean as well.
Let's say you want to top
Sent
in
him
it.
to the shops, sent him to the shops. It was done, man. But
Let's
it's
say you want to top, Cam. Just say you want to top. I'll send it to you. Don't worry.
but
With Jesus on the back. With Jesus on
Jesus,
the
yeah, every time he's on the
back.
pitch, even against Liverpool, yeah, there's one person I'm afraid of when it comes to just being direct, great at hold up. He's someone who's going to make a difference, and it's Jesus, man. And I think that's exactly what he did. He came on, and I think he just tore that defense apart. And
Yeah.
Maguire and Evans in defense, he would think he would have thought after all that money they've spent, Maguire and Evans in defense.
Yeah. Well. I mean, butchered himself, innit? That's what happened in it. It's like every game is getting taken off after 60th minute because it's got a yellow or something under the
Yeah,
sun.
well,
But what I was gonna say is, yeah, I get your point about it, but I still think Arsenal had done enough to win the game and create enough clear chances. Because if you look at the Havertz miss, the chance for Bukayo Saka, I mean, why is he passing? You just smash that. You're right in front of the goal. You got the whole. Just hit it anywhere.
yeah,
The
but this is what I'm
one
saying.
place you don't pass it, like hit it anywhere, it's in. Like
I think Saka should have done better there.
but yeah, and I mean, apart from few moments where I mean, United, yeah, they could say they had more of the possession, but that was more with Onana on the ball in goalkeeping situation than
Yeah,
anywhere else. Because if you look at the first half stats, yeah, it looked like they got so much possession, but if you look at the final third possession, they only had 4%, which is I think, whoa,
ooh, who's
whoa,
popped
look who's
up here?
joining, look who's
Who's that?
joining. Oh
Who's that?
wow, oh
Who's
wow.
that?
I think he's heard our call, Cam. He's heard our call of
He
Sheffield
heard
United and
something.
he's
He heard
straight away
something.
appeared. Hey,
Look, it's like Undertaker came out of nowhere. The lights have had to
Undertaker's
turn
come
on.
out. Undertaker's come out.
Whoa!
Oh, he's out. He's out. Adu, thanks for joining us a bit late, but we were basically talking about the Man United and Arsenal game. We'll go to your view. What was your thought on the game?
Yeah, I thought Arsenal deservedly won. They showed a lot of character. They're definitely the team that showed that they were pushing for the win. I thought both teams showed their vulnerabilities. Really, it's quite easy to attack and open up both teams. I thought United looked at the second half with the counter attack, but you have to be impressed with the mentality of Arsenal. They were the team pushing. They were at no point did it feel like, even when if Garnacho's goal didn't get ruled out, it just felt like Arsenal still were gonna go for it. I mean, there's no point did you feel like they weren't the team with the composure, the confidence to go on and take that win and take that.
Yeah.
They believed until the last second. They deserved the goals. You could tell, and you could tell they had that extra gear, that confidence to keep going. They were playing to win. Ultimately, towards the end, United were playing for the counter attack, but they weren't playing to win.
Do you know what I was gonna add? Adu, is like only time obviously when Højlund came on, they looked a bit threatening, but it wasn't ever so much that it looked like they're gonna score, because every time they kept missing up that final ball or the final third pass or something under the sun, because none of them were accurate. Because even if you look at the one, I think Eriksen played it for Højlund, it was overhit, and Gabby, obviously Højlund went and pressured him, but it was overhit. None of them were accurate in the sense that, then you can turn the opposition, or even play into Højlund's feet so he can turn and then, get into Rashford or something. I was disappointed with that. Like, none of the final third passes from United, it was good enough. But yeah, Arsenal, I mean, they take you to the ringer, don't they?
The story of United season so far. I don't think they've been that impressive, have they? I think when you watch them game by game, even after the signings, I think Højlund, like you said, made a difference. But overall, Arsenal had the better chances, and if any team was going to win it, it'd be Arsenal. But I just want to ask Adil, by penalty or not?
Which one? The Højlund one?
No.
The
Havertz one, penalty or not?
I thought it was a penalty, but I think once you see the replays, it becomes obvious that it was a. I think if the contact was made on the initial lunge from Wan-Bissaka, it's 100% penalty, and that's why it looked like. It really did look like that's where the contact was made for for Havertz to fall, and it's only by chance that the contact was made. I don't think Wan-Bissaka was in control of his tackle. It was a wide tackle. It deserved a penalty, but the camera showed the contact wasn't from that tackle, and obviously the tackle between the clash between
his leg coming back and think his
only thing I think is if later in the season we see penalties given for a trailing leg, then I think you have to look back at that and think, why was that not given a pen? Because I don't think Havertz looked for it. The contact was still made by Wan-Bissaka.
I don't think when he made the tackle.
No, he didn't make the tackle. The tackle wasn't the contact, but the contact was made. I think it was the penalty.
After that, that's just you couldn't definitively prove. You might try to, but you actually cannot prove whether the contact was made by Wan-Bissaka or Havertz for the second one, where the actual contact was made. There's actually an argument to say the contact was probably made more by Havertz in the second instance, hence why they didn't give the penalty. They overruled it. But clearly it was fortunate, 100% fortunate, that the initial tackle that was wild, that was a lunge, that he was nowhere near the ball, didn't make contact.
I think in most other days, like, I don't think they would have even referred it back to the referee anyways, for to go and see him, because they would say it's not clear and obvious, because how these standard of these referees are. They would take that out of their hand. They would just say, oh, it's given, and they'll go with it. because
It seems as if every week VAR seems to be favouring United these days, eh?
not just United. We'll get to the other team.
That's a ridiculous statement. That's a ridiculous. I don't think you're watching enough Liverpool matches.
It's fun. It's funny, you know, because like Ten Hag came out in the press thinking all he was talking about is just referee. It's funny.
Yeah, obviously they're trying to put pressure on referees. You know, it's away from home. You know, there's these type of ones. I don't ever make a big deal, whichever way it goes, because you can make an argument. You can see it. The ones I have an issue with is where it's completely inconsistent, and I'm sure we'll touch upon some
like the Man City one.
Man City was completely ridiculous, or even earlier in the season, United the handball one, where still there hasn't been any clear explanation why suddenly that's not being given as a handball when every other time that's hands out.
I'm just wondering though, with this Havertz pen not being
other ones, you can, if there's an argument for it, you can understand it that okay, the threshold's going higher. Like this one last season, that's a stonewall penalty. They're not referring it. Is that consistent what they're doing? I think that is consistent in terms of the big games. It seems like they are holding the standard a bit higher, but I don't know if that's fair for the Premier League because the games that aren't televised, it seems like the same scrutiny isn't there. So it's definitely it's still a talking point. It's still an issue. I like the fact that the bar is higher because for the sake of the game. I mean, it just feels like last season players started to realize there's a flaw, and this VAR was being used as a tool to create penalties. People were throwing themselves, trying, and different leagues we saw the same problem. So I like the fact direction it's going. It's just
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Or the only question mark is the consistency part, because if they're gonna apply it throughout the league.
Yeah.
Don't pick and choose the moments you want to apply it. Just because this is televised, that doesn't mean it's not impacting a game of Luton, who's fighting for relegation or whatever it is. Yes, it's massive for them. Might not be massive in the sense of everybody else, but it's massive for Luton because that point might be crucial for them to give confidence in going into the next game. God knows what.
But equally, like I said about the penalty, it's one of those where now then for the rest of the season, if you see an incident like that where maybe a defender's missed the tackle, but then the trailing leg hits them, are they going to be calling it a pen? And if they do give it a pen, then you're going to be looking at the Havertz one and say, well, it was the trailing leg, it was the movement that should have been given a pen then. That's what I'm saying. So if there is that consistency that they see that, well, the initial tackle wasn't the one that created the penalty or the incident, and then it's the trailing leg or the trailing part of the body that has knocked the player off, and then they decide it's not a penalty, then fine. But I do think we're going to get series of matters throughout the season where similar things will happen and it will be given a pen. And then that's why it begs the question, which I think Arsenal should have got a penalty.
Okay. What did you make of overall game? I mean, in terms of Rice, Adi obviously gets the winner at the end. But what did you make of his performance today?
I thought he had solid. I didn't. The thing is, when I was doing my analysis of the game, the result was still 1-1, and I, at that moment, if I be honest, I wasn't that impressed with Rice in terms of controlling the match. I just felt that ball in, straight down the middle, or that chip into that gap was huge between the centre midfield and centre back. And fortunate he has really physical, defenders who are good at tight marking, like Gabriel, like Saliba. But let's be honest, if that's a Harry Kane, they're not winning that. They're not winning those straight balls. So the counter-attacks were available because I don't think he played the role of CDM correctly. But his performance, he was there. He always showed for the board. He spread the ball. It's still a positive performance, but I was more maybe analysing it in terms of maybe he's also as good as his performance is on the ball, off the ball. I just felt positionally he was correct. He wasn't giving the stabilizing effect. I think he's very fortunate that it's a big game, and quite a lot of the way Gabriel was defending, he got away with a lot. I mean, his manhandling way before the ball even comes into the striker. Different referee. You're not getting away with it the way Gabriel got. So I was looking more from a coach perspective that maybe he was positive on the ball. I'll definitely say that I was impressed with him on the ball, off the ball, positionally. If you CDM against the top teams, I do see Arsenal giving up a lot of chances because I think Partey offered a bit more protection and reading and cutting out passes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add. I think what the thing is with I'm also called Declan Rice and still Gabriel coming back in. I think they're still trying to kind of get that positioning sorted between what they want to do, whether they want to go. Because if you look at all of us, Zinchenko goes to almost right center mid, and like Declan, like it's all just a bit scrambled. I'm like, why?
Yeah,
why
I couldn't tell what formation you guys were playing at
why would the
points.
left back go to the right center mid position? Like, do you know what I mean? So I personally don't think there's still a cohesion or that Arteta has come to a solid identity of what he wants there. I think that's the issue. Or the
Here's
right
what
person.
I think same with Zinchenko moving out to right centre middle, or he was almost in positions that you wouldn't expect him to be. You almost couldn't tell how Arsenal were trying to play. And I think I echo what Adil by saying in the sense that I don't think Rice was a presence in midfield today, besides when he was on the ball.
I think he won the ball. Loads of second balls when the balls were played in.
But I don't think he was. I don't know. I think he's very good, and I think he's very lucky that he scored the winner. You would say, because I don't think his performance was top tier. I don't know. I don't think it was his price tag.
I think he definitely had a presence on the pitch. He definitely showed. He was good. He's part of the reason why us was still pushing was because of the way in which him and Odegaard is in particular. But I felt the most impressive player for Arsenal was Odegaard. I don't think he is getting enough credit, but when it comes to driving the team forward in this match, in the second half, that last 20 minutes, he was causing United all sorts of problems because he was actually coming into midfield and then driving in. He wasn't staying in that outside position, and he kept making the right selections in terms of getting the ball out to the wide players. I just felt it was Odegaard that was driving the team and really pinning United back. And maybe that's the tactics. I mean,
do you know what was annoying though, Adil? Do you know what was annoying? Do you know what was annoying is the fact that we didn't do it enough, because as much as he was trying to himself, I felt after about, I think, 60th minute that even when what's his name came on, Johnny Evans came on and Jesus came on, I was like, you need to get however you want, you need to get that ball, that matchup. That's the matchup you want. Johnny Evans against Jesus, or get Odegaard in that, because that's what's going to create the winning goals and the winning moments.
This is what I kind of said earlier, though. I do think Odegaard had a good game, but I think there was a lot of times he was wasteful in possession with it. There was times where he was waiting too long to release, or he was having a shot when he should have passed. I mean, we saw it a lot with United, but I think Odegaard, he is usually better in his decision making when it comes to being in the final third. So, it was just one of those games where I think he was the driving force, but I think he was careless sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that's the nature of that position and the nature of a team that sits back and is trying to hit you on the counter, is you force the issue a bit more, especially when you're afforded the space and the time he has on the ball, but maybe not what's in front of him. So he is, but that's the thing. He did not hide. He showed up. No, he was the driving force. He like, I know Rice will get a lot of credit because it was a positive performance from him. He got the goal. He made a difference. But I just felt while watching the game, The standout guy for me was Odegaard. He was dictating it, and we were struggling to pick him up. And while that was going on, I was thinking, let's be honest, he doesn't get the fair credit he deserves. You got two teams here, great advert for the Premier League, going at it. Both the captains are tens, which is a bit unusual.
True.
And then you got, Fernandes does not get called out unless he does tantrums. He doesn't get called out for the way Odegaard does. I mean, Odegaard is that he has to score and have so many assists before anyone notices him in a game. But games like today, he was the difference maker. He tactically understood where the gaps was coming into midfield and then driving towards that towards Saka's side. And that's where the overload was happening. That's where United were losing the numbers game.
I think most people look at it from a stats perspective, isn't it? Just purely on the stats, because at the end of the season, whether we like it or not, probably Bruno Fernandes will have more assists and more goals than Odegaard.
Yeah, but this is the problem, isn't it? Everyone looks at
will
stats.
Say automatically will say Fernandes had a better season.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. This is the problem with today's football, isn't it? Everyone looks at stats, but if you look at it for player, you would say, Odegaard's more integral to the Arsenal team, but even his play style, you would say, is probably better. He's probably a better player overall. But again, Bruno Fernandes, not to say he's not the key man at United, but he statistically will show that he's a better player, but I don't think he is.
Before moving on, I think
Cam, your bias is getting ahead of you again. There's
no bias. I'm not an Arsenal fan. I'm not an Arsenal fan. I can tell you now, Odegaard's a better ball player.
Unfortunately, you can't go. You can't go past the Liverpool bias on anything at the moment. But I will definitely say, I think I could talk confidently for 90% football fans. We'll leave the 10% Liverpool out. That most people will say, even most Arsenal fans will say Fernandes is a better player than Odegaard in terms of ability. And if you look at every dynamic, I mean, there are levels difference. But in terms of influence, captain material, 100%, I would say Odegaard is the better player, is the better captain. He has more influence on his team. He had more influence on this game.
If he has more influence, how is Bruno Fernandes a better player?
No, it's not Costa. The stuff that Bruno Fernandes can do that I don't think Odegaard can.
Anything Bruno Fernandes can do, Odegaard can do.
No chance, man. I'm glad.
I'm just enjoying this.
Glad for the whole world to hear that.
I'm enjoying this.
I'm glad you keep saying these statements. I mean, it's funny.
I don't think Bruno Fernandes is a bad player. Like I said, I think he's a very good player. I think he's probably one of United's best players. But Odegaard's better.
All right, good, man. Moving on. What I was gonna say is I think sometimes like Arsenal have been poor, and I think this is the type of results it needs them to pick up and give them that belief to step on to the next level. Let's move on. Let's move to Brighton versus Newcastle. I mean, Evan Ferguson hat trick. What did you make of it, Cam?
What do you even say? Brighton demolished them, didn't they? Newcastle, I don't know. Maybe they were still recovering from that game last week. They just didn't seem like themselves. At least the other games they were pressing. They were playing like themselves. But against Brighton, it seems as if they had no energy. Brighton had them almost everything. Defensively, in midfield, they were dominating. Every time Ferguson went forward, he looked like he had the freedom of the pitch. I mean, you could say there was a few knocks in there and like for him to get to the goal, but Pope didn't have a great game. But even then, I think Brighton were too good for Newcastle.
I mean, Isak did have a couple of good opportunities before, obviously, Brighton take the lead. Were those key moments? I mean, do they change the dynamics?
Up until the first goal, it was actually quite an even game. Newcastle, they do that same thing every game, and you always think, if they don't get that early goal, because they put so much into that first 20 minutes in terms of they're physically going to bully you, they're going to go gun-ho, they really go all for it in that first 20 minutes. And you could just see that confidence erodes once they don't get that lead, because ultimately you're tired and they can't press with the same intensity. And a team like Brighton, as soon as you're not at 100%, they will pick you apart because of the bravery in which they play. Their manager demands you take the ball on the half turn all the time. So they always are going to keep challenging you to keep being physical, to keep pressing, to keep tackling. If you don't, you will not be able to. You will not be able to, contain them. So it was about those decisions. A couple of them. I think there was one played the wrong pass where the run was made on the back post. Gordon should have kind of come into the centre box. Isak played the pass in. It would have been a simple tap in, but those are the little differences that I felt helped Brighton because they grew into the game more and more.
Yeah.
They started to win those matchups, and definitely Dan Burns got found out as a centre back. Ferguson really dominated him.
Botman missing was massive, wasn't it? But I mean, Cam, do you think it's a massive issue for Howe and Newcastle, considering the fact obviously they're in the Champions League this season, they've started quite poor, out of the 4 games, winning only 1, with 3 points. Is the pressure on Eddie Howe?
I think more so the expectations have gone up. Eddie Howe himself said it. They need to push themselves more because now that they're in the Champions League, it's not just the league that they need to worry about. They need to want more for themselves. I do think they've not had an easy run of games. There's a lot of teams to face still. I do think they still finish in the top 7. I think they're too good of a team not to. I don't know. I don't think it's a problem. I think if results like this continue against mid-table teams or even teams in the lower half, then it's a problem. I think when you come up against good opposition, with Brighton, Liverpool last week, I know we were down to 10 men, but I think you can give it to Newcastle that maybe that inexperience comes in. But yeah, if the results continue throughout the season, then or a few more games after, then you could be worried. I think so far, we're just starting to see some teams maybe pick up form. Maybe some teams have just had a slow start. So I don't know. I'm not worried about Newcastle. I just think they weren't at their best yesterday. And I think you're right. They do have this moment of intensity at the start of the game, but it's not sustainable. So maybe that's something Eddie Howe needs to look at and about maybe knowing how to utilize his players more and better throughout the game and when to press, when not to press, and becoming more clinical up front, I guess.
Sorry, go on, Adam.
I was gonna say, I think if we go into a slightly bit more depth,
yeah,
I think one, Newcastle have been stitched up. If you look at it, the start to the season, and you look at the Champions League group, they're stitched up in the sense that everything that could be the hardest way possible, that's the way it's been done for them.
It has, yeah.
Yeah, so they've been unlucky in that sense. But we said it last year that they will struggle once they get to Europe because they were the fittest team last year. I still think even this season they are one of the fittest teams in the league. They're running out with the intensity. It's higher than anyone. We know someone who's part of the recorded documentary. We have inside knowledge of how intense their training is.
Yeah.
How much they do every time is 100%, and you see that. But like Cam said, once Europe comes in, that becomes so. I do think they actually have something to be worried about. In the sense
me too. Agreed.
That their confidence is shot already because they've actually had difficult fixtures. Now, in a normal season, you're not going to worry because they haven't got Europe. They'll win those points back because they're better than the other teams. But then that might not happen this season because of one, the confidence is gone already, and number 2, we never saw them falter like this. That second half was complete domination. There was nothing Newcastle. They didn't even show up in the second half. No. It's the first time I saw.
I mean, apart from the goal, you could say.
Sorry?
Apart from the goal.
The goal came out of nothing. I mean, it's more.
Wilson did better than what the ball, the overall game suggested. He did better with the ball than anything.
They actually were complete. They gave up. They had nothing to them. That's how much they were getting bullied physically. Even the smaller players of Brighton were taking them out. It's like Joelinton was in the walls. Everybody was taking him out. Everyone was fighting with him. him and Burns just could not physically handle the amount of different Brighton players giving it and going for it. And it was amazing to see a team out physicality wise outdo Newcastle. I haven't seen that last season. So I do think they have a problem because of the way things have turned out for them, which is super, super unlucky.
Yeah.
They could have maybe built their confidence up, but now straight away they're thinking about Europe.
Yeah, I mean the European draws are mad hard for them.
Yeah.
Group of death, you could pretty much say.
And one other thing I
mean, you could look at Europe. You could look at Europe as the big problem coming up for Newcastle, but here's the thing: I think Newcastle fans themselves can see that it's probably one of the hardest groups, if not the hardest group, and they've been placed right in the midst of it, So they would, if anything, is an achievement if they get out of it. So I think going into the league, they might still prioritize that. Not to say they won't prioritize Champions League, but I don't think it's a goal for them. So I do think when the European games start, then we'll see. I just think Newcastle are a good enough team. I don't think they've got the depth, but I think they're a good enough team to still finish mid-table.
No one ever makes the Champions League a secondary
choice. Yeah.
Even if they say the league's the most priority, they always play the strongest available line in the Champions League because that's the one that gets worldwide viewership.
Of course,
no one wants to get spanked 5-0 in the Champions League because that's going everywhere. That's not just go stick it to Europe.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So I don't, but I think the draw does affect it because they're not going to be able to rotate maybe as much as they might have done if they had a couple of minnows, a couple of, I think it does change things. And the Eddie Howe is getting caught out because last year it felt like he struggled to manage the squad when he had a small squad. He struggled to keep, Isak and Wilson. The top manager have to deal with every position. Headaches. He struggles to manage it with one position, keeping everyone happy and giving good fair time and rotating. He likes to stick to his 11. He's done it this season. It's like for like.
Let's be honest about Eddie Howe.
We think they're going to cause him problems during the season.
Let's be honest about Eddie Howe. He kind of overachieved with Newcastle last year. So. I mean, it's not crazy to think that he's probably long-term not the answer to Newcastle wanting to consistently be in Champions League, maybe start competing for league titles. I think right now it's almost let's get that consistency being on the top half of the table before they bring someone else in.
It's a stopgap. I think everyone kind of understand. Or what he's done is good. But what I was gonna get to, I'm moving it on. What I was gonna get to is what did you make of Evan Ferguson? I mean, 18 years old, hat-trick in a big game. What did you make of his performance? I felt like it was a complete performance. He'd done everything.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, before his 2 goals, he's completely gone. The last 2 goals, he was gone. He couldn't even run anymore.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, I'm surprised De Zerbi didn't take it because De Zerbi is one of those loves tinkering, loves to take his players off early, quickly, as soon as they're not pressing. And there's a couple of times he just stopped pressing and couldn't keep up with the pace of the game. And I was thinking, wow, he's actually gone. And then he pops up with those goals. And that just shows you the quality of a player that when their tank is empty, the quality still shines through. And it just shows the technical ability of a player. I always think you notice the technical ability of a player when they are tired. When they empty in the attack, and he still produced at those 2 goals. Even that 3rd goal, you could tell is lazy. He was tired. He didn't want to make more, but he got shot off.
I don't know if he didn't want to run, but it was a bit relaxed, wasn't it?
No. If you watch the game, he actually stopped running. He was physically gone. Like there's a couple of times they had the overlap. And he's literally jogging, and they played the 2 ball, and he wasn't even sprinting to make the overlap on the extra player count because he was so out of breath and he was just gone. And you could tell some movements we made, but
I mean, he's 18 years old, Premier League player. It could just be lack of concentration on other things. I doubt that he was out of breath or he was tired. I think
it was his first game. I think
it's
build up their fitness.
I get that.
He's an unfit player, but
I don't think it's. I think it was more. getting match fitness, but I don't know.
There-
He
there-
might have
there-
just had that
yeah,
time to get back into the game.
there's fitness and there's match fitness and match
sharpness.
sharpness. It's completely different. You can be fit but not match sharp. There is a
That's what
level
I think he had laps in
in the higher
concentration.
level. That level difference is massive.
Of course,
in terms of
Yeah,
players.
but again, he's 18 years old, and he's probably going to Chelsea 140 million next year.
Yeah, I mean, 200 million probably. We're probably predicting 200 million. Bowley's probably looking at already as Jackson missed a open goal, so it might be that Bowley's thinking, you know what, I need to bring on Evan Ferguson. Talking of Chelsea, let's move to Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea against Nottingham Forest, 1-0 loss, another loss. I mean, what's your thoughts, Adil? They had chances, but I mean, again, missed it.
Yeah, I think the club in crisis in the sense that if you're losing and you're playing that well, and their general build-up play, I mean, watch the game, and the build-up play is really good. It's exciting football. They're cutting through teams. It's fast-paced, one-touch, two-touch football, the movement. But for all of that, they never have anyone doing much movement into the box. All the movement is in around the outside. It's into the midfield position. As soon as they get into those attacking positions, you only ever see one player, if that. No one.
What do you think Chelsea are missing?
I just think they're missing confidence and killer instinct, because everyone knows your chances increase if you have more players in the box.
Yeah.
The problem is it's like they're so happy with the build-up play and the way they've cut someone open, they all start admiring it, and then you only have Jackson making a run in the box.
But do you also think? It could be also down to their formation, because obviously they're playing with the wing back formation, and obviously they're not getting into the box. So who else is going to get into the box? Because they're playing Enzo. He's trying to be a playmaker, so he's not trying to look into get into that box that much. The only person or the two people that you could think will probably get into the box is Sterling and Jackson. So who's going to be the other person? Who's going to be the third, the fourth person that's going to get in? So they surely need to look into this. Either the wing back needs to go in, or they need to get someone different in the midfield profile. Because if you want Enzo to deploy playmate, then you need to get another runner into the box.
It needs to be the second, the second inside forward. But that's the strange thing, is they're playing those inside forwards like midfielder. Like, someone tell me, where the heck was Cole Palmer playing yesterday? He's playing in midfield more than an inside.
Yeah, I think Poch is trying to overload the midfield, and I think he's almost forgetting that, like you said, the more men inside the box, the more likely you're going to score. So, he probably does need to look at how can you start building up productivity inside the box. Sterling and Jackson probably do look like the most threatening forwards, and like with this formation that Chelsea are playing, if Enzo is the playmaker, you need more people to make for. You can't just have the two target men, and as much as I think Sterling's probably been the best player, he can't do it all by himself. And Jackson, missing you could call it a sitter. It's not going to do anything for his confidence.
There was no composure there. That was the problem, because there was enough time for him to take another step and then hit the volley rather than lunging at it. I think he rushed it personally.
Yeah, I think he leaned back too much, and but that can happen. I mean,
of course,
great players have done that, but they generally have a problem in the sense that they're playing well, they're dominating teams, and they're still not getting the wins, and that's a bad sign, because once your confidence goes, you only end up playing not as well.
I think we probably need to do another video on Chelsea, because on their transfer, getting in Cole Palmer, who's similar to what probably profiles they already have. But that's another video. There could be a whole video on Todd Bowley and his football manager experiment. Let's move on. City. Where to begin? City go 1-0 up. Fulham fight back, and then that big moment of the game that just changes everything. Ake goal. What did you think of it, Cameron?
Offside every day. I don't know how they didn't give an offside. It's an offside. He's standing in direct vision of the goalkeeper. On top of that, you could say that even if he didn't interfere or touch the ball, goalkeeper would never know. You could see the extra step, the hesitation. I think it's offside all day.
I do.
Yeah, that's probably the most shocking decision of the season so far. I don't think if any team thinks they got something to complain about, they might as well go to sleep, because Fulham are the only team that genuinely have them. That is the most flabbergasting decision. I think, it makes the Premier League look like a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. There's subjectivity, and there's some that you could say, were mistakes, but live you can understand why. The Onana one, some people say, oh, it's the second, but you can see some technical why people. This one, you can't even think of a reason to give the goal.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm not telling me the reason to give a goal. I mean, like, what a joke and the thing is, I wonder, are they going to announce it? They haven't heard a press release, like
apology and another apology.
Team, like, oh, they've been given, they've been dropped for the next round of matches. That's what they did with the mistakes for the United one, which is probably what we'll all agree.
But there is at least there was an action taking place.
Sorry?
At least there was an action taking place to do something about it.
Yeah, but I mean, Will still lost the game. So
let's be honest, they're not going to do it because it's Michael Oliver. Let's be honest.
It's 150. It's 115 charges. I think it's 115 charges and refereeing decisions.
117 now, isn't it? 117 now. with those dodgy offsides, we're counting up the list.
I think it's clear cut. Then they don't do nothing because which referee it is, which team. It's the Premier #1 team that's made this blunder. And it's unbelievable. I don't know if there was a single action in any of the weeks that determined the game, because it literally gave City so much confidence. It lifted the whole stadium. It made a huge difference to the outcome of the game.
And just before halftime,
that killed Fulham's belief. When something like that happened, and they were playing with so much bravery, they were counter-attacking efficiently. They were causing City problems.
Yeah.
And second up, it's like they just didn't. It was.
But Adu, who would? Let's be honest. When a decision like that goes against you, it deflates you. It deflates you. You just feel everything.
You can't blame Fulham. You can't blame them, because the game was there to be won. Without that decision, that decision killed the game. It literally just made City pile on the pressure. But Fulham they lost ideas, because they just thought, well, if you're gonna let that in, surely you're just gonna let them walk away with the win today, innit? It was ridiculous. That was without. It's like, what did I say? Like, there's more reasons you can give why that isn't a goal. How can you even look at that excuse of, oh, that's a goal? You can't even look at it and say that's a goal. It doesn't make sense. It's completely offside.
It must be the worst decision in the history of VAR.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well,
my FPL looks great because of it, but I'm just saying it's offside.
What I was gonna say, what did you make of Haaland's hat trick, Adu?
Yeah, quality hat trick. Again, that's what's going to happen when you have a Man City buoyant and the other team kind of loses its edge, because I thought his finishes were great. They were the thing with Haaland is, because everyone just assumes he should score, and he's a great finisher, and City are so good, and they're putting on a play for. You kind of can not appreciate the finesse of some of the touches he does. Like, for his first goal, that touch was his first goal. The one where no, it's second action.
Second goal.
Yeah, the touch before he played the shot is absolutely exquisite. That touch is beautiful. That a playmaker has got a touch like that. Not many strikers.
No.
And is the finesse of the touch, the turn, the finish. It's quality. I mean, he's a supreme finisher, and
he bagged an assist as well. Yeah,
Yeah, I had the feeling he's going for a shot there, though. It looked like
it did, didn't it? It kind of looked like a shot, but
Listen, it was a cross
it looked
shot
better
assist,
it looked
right?
better as a pass.
Yeah.
It looked better as a pass.
The thing about Haaland is because he's not fake, he kind of gives away with his reaction. So Alvarez gives you so much credit for giving the assist, and he's like, I don't really want to take it. And so that's one of the things I like about him is he's
He's
honest.
honest. Yeah, he's
that
honest.
interview showed his character. With how many players would have given a frank and honest interview supporting Fulham, the management?
Yeah, he said it straight as
Yeah.
I thought it's refreshing, and it just shows what type of person he is. I really like the fact that he doesn't stick to the script. He's comfortable doing who he is.
Listen, I love his interviews. It's just like you ask him
The robot, man.
butter or jam, he'll just tell you straight, oh, jam or whatever else. He's like he won't
Yeah.
go in a long-winded
One-word
answer of
answer.
some scripted answer from the management team. No, he'll just say it as it is.
Yeah, I mean, he's maybe the only player where you're gonna be fearful of him actually saying, "Oh, it was an easy game." The opposition will. The worst one is when the players say that.
Yeah.
Oh, what a tough game! You just smashed them on 5-0, and they say, "Oh, credit to the other team, they made it so hard." He's like, "Oh, just shut up, man."
It's just fun. It's just funny because towards the end, it just all it felt like Man City players were just trying to get Haaland to get more goals. That literally, and Foden every time it's trying to like feed it through to Haaland. That's what it looked like.
That is City tactics now, though, isn't it? They do try and feed him as much as possible, regardless of if they're winning 3-0 or 2-0.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They do try and get Haaland on the ball as front of goal as much as they can.
Let's move it on. Liverpool versus Villa. Dominant performance, Cam.
Pretty much. I think Villa had a few chances, like nervy ones where Liverpool at the back. If they scored, then it becomes a different game. But overall, I think we controlled the game. Midfield had a really good game. Gomez stepped up really well, in Van Dijk's absence. Matic played really well. Trent and Salah, they were formidable together. It was unfortunate that, Trent had to go off about, 70 minutes or so. But
tactical. I think he's trying to get off 2 weeks with Southgate of England. I think it's
hopefully
always does this.
Hopefully, fit for
That's
Liverpool.
my attack, but just before the international.
Scouts, not English. That's what they are, innit? But it's I felt it was a comfortable win. Villa obviously they played well. Diaby was threatening at times, but I don't know. It showed the difference in quality, I guess. I think we had a good game.
Do you think the quick goal from
I think
everything
is defined by how early that goal was.
Yeah, because
we've seen Aston Villa are quite a good counter-attacking team. I think since Emery's come, I don't know, but obviously this season's really early, only 4 games in. But I remember last season certainly, they had since Emery came, they had like 8 games in a row away from home or something. So they clearly got a formula that works away from home, and so I was really interested watching the game because of. I was expecting it to be a bit more hard. I think
me too. I thought
whole game plan went out. Yeah, the whole game plan went out the window when they conceded so early.
szoboszlai finish.
Yeah, quality finish.
Amazing guy. What an amazing man, hey?
Yeah, it is a great goal, a great finish, quality. But the thing was, Aston Villa came into the game once Liverpool went 2-0 up.
Yeah.
Aston Villa had a bit of a moment. And those are little things, that just worry you about Liverpool. They get carried away. It's like 2-0 is the most dangerous result for Liverpool because that's when they always kind of concede when they go 2 up. They go all guns blazing and start leaving gaps. So it was positive the way they brought back control because they went to a 10-15 minutes and I was like, whoa, why is this a ping pong game? Why is it stretched or starting to? Why are Aston Villa getting into it when you're 2-0 up? And then they went, back to controlling the game, slowing the tempo, and they got the third goal. So Yeah, definitely a
Yeah,
positive
I think it is
performance.
very classic Liverpool. You know, they don't make it easy. They don't let you relax. We always have to have moments in the game where we could concede 3 or 4 goals. So
I did.
it's
I did.
just
My sources are telling me that Cam's trying to get szoboszlai haircut. That's what my sources are
no,
telling me.
I'm going for Rob Holding after his hair transplant.
He's going to Turkey to change his hair to szoboszlai.
We'll take a lot. We'll take a lot.
Szoboszlai's got style and is certainly silky in that midfield. And yeah,
Let's.
I agree that it was a game we were all expecting.
I mean, for me, after that goal, I was like, it's done. Because
Expect a lot of these games. Like I
I
said,
watched the next
they're
10
winning the
minutes. I was
league.
like, nah. Let's move it on. Move it on to the biggest game of the weekend, all right, at Kenilworth Road, all right. Let's move it on to that one, where we should have had a penalty. We got robbed by VAR again. I mean, what did you make of it, Adil? We made it a bit difficult for ourselves, going 2-0 down. Got it back, and then in the last minute, we should have had a penalty.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's when at the time when I first saw it, obviously it clearly hits the hands. I wasn't too fast with that was given as a penalty, but then when you hear Gary Neville's explanation that when a ball comes from 30 odd yards, there's no excuses.
No,
It's
there
a
isn't.
penalty. When you
Okay,
hear
so
that argument, then I was like, okay, I actually agree with it. When I watched it live, and so I just thought it's one of those where, yeah, his hands was out, it did hit him, but because there was no Luton player around, I just thought, well, it didn't really change anything. So, but once you hear the explanation, you think, okay, yeah, definitely that's one that should have been reviewed at least. And yeah, but
We have
that's
been robbed.
like I said last few weeks, VAR is there to protect and support the on-field ref. It's not there to make the right decision, and that's where the problem is.
Do you know what's funny? The biggest, most funny thing is, guess who Sky Sports have hired as their refereeing expert?
Yeah,
My mate, Mike Dean.
Yeah,
Mike Dean, yeah.
I'm like, what expert opinion he's gonna give? He's gonna back his mate on the field.
But I actually do like Mike Dean because it seems like he's got the hump with the referees of because I hated when they used to get who is it? I can't Gallagher. Dermot Gallagher for Ref Watch. All he used to do is contradict himself week in, week out.
And get called out.
Same excuse to back a non-decision was then used the exact same to back a decision. Is like ridiculous, as hypocritical as you can get. But it also showed you the culture of the refereeing of the PGMOL because it's all
That's
about
what it is, though.
the referees protecting each other. And you see the same thing even with Walton when it's not TNT Sport when he's there. They're all there to explain and protect and back the referees. And it's like even after they've left the PGMOL, they're so afraid to go against their mates, their friends.
You can't go against the mafia family, okay?
And then you get Mike Dean just coming out and saying it, clear cut how it is. That shouldn't, and it's quite refreshing, and I give it to him. He used to irritate me as a referee. He used to make but at least he's sticking true to that, and he's making himself controversial. He's saying it how it is, and I like it. I like the fact that there is a referee who is just pretty much giving us the evidence that we all know, which is what is the point of having mates assessing mates or monitoring the performances of their mates.
It should definitely.
Sorry, can I just intervene and say, what's the difference between Ward-Prowse's handball, not giving her the pen, and Jackson's one? Both from corners. Jackson's one's against Liverpool for week 1. You could argue Ward-Prowse's vision was obscure and his arm went up, but Jackson's one, he just jumped up. The ball was coming straight at him, hit his hand. So both weren't given as pens.
I can't remember. Sorry, I can't remember the Jackson one.
There's a huge. Jackson's one was basically touching his chest, so he's actually doing the right thing of keeping his hands in and keeping his posture as small as it can. So if it hits him, what's the difference between it hitting his hand and hitting his chest? It's the same outcome. But when your hand is out, there is a difference, because if his hand wasn't out, it would have hit something else.
But
The play would have.
Jackson's one was unchallenged, you see, and whereas Ward-Prowse's one, there was a challenge. The ball, he saw the ball late, so it's not like his hand was up because he was trying to deflect it.
If your hand is inside of your body, what difference does it make?
It's going to hit his chest.
No, but then if you're arguing that it's come from 30 yards, it's come from 30 yards.
You can't make your hands invisible, really. You can't chop your hands off.
But then that's what I'm saying. So it wasn't given a pen, so it's no different to Jackson's one, where Jackson was unchallenged.
There is a huge difference. One was someone kept their hands in, and the other one was the hand out.
You can't take your hand out, can you?
No. But what I'm saying is Jackson's one wasn't like this, though. He jumped up, his hands were next to him. Fair enough. Yeah, but Ward-Prowse, you could argue he had no vision.
Ward-Prowse is like this. There's the difference.
No, but he had no vision of the ball. All he was doing is putting his arm up against a player.
He didn't make it such a big though, didn't he?
But he put his arm up against a player. That's all he was doing.
It makes away from his body. One did it with his arms within his body frame, and the other one away from his body frame. That's a huge difference.
But is it unnatural what he was doing? The movement.
Whose?
Ward-Prowse.
It was unnatural, especially after you've said there's no one around him.
Yeah.
No, Jackson had no one around him. Ward-Prowse, you would say he was more in a challenging. He was more of a challenging duel. There was
no duel.
The vision was obscured. There was the ball in the air and the players in the air.
There was no duel, guys. What we'll do. Let's put it out to our audience, guys. Who do you think is right? Which one should have been a penalty, or should they have no? Should Jackson have got a penalty, or should Ward-Prowse have got a penalty? But
either both are penalties, or both are not penalties.
On that note, guys. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.